Towns were often built near rivers, streams, or small lakes, allowing easy access to water for drinking, cooking, cleaning, and irrigation. Small docks or landing points were constructed carefully, gentle extensions of the land into the water. Farmers could load baskets of corn or bundles of wheat onto simple rafts. Craftsmen could transport heavier goods, like barrels, furniture, or tools, to nearby towns or markets downstream. The soft sound of water lapping against the shore became a constant, soothing presence in town life. Bridges, too, were built with patience and care. Early settlers crafted wooden structures over narrow streams or small rivers, sometimes reinforced with stones gathered from nearby fields. Each plank was placed slowly, every joint tested, and every support measured to ensure safety. Crossing these bridges was a quiet, deliberate act, a gentle reminder of human ingenuity working in harmony with nature. Children learned early to walk carefully over the planks, hands sometimes brushing the rail for balance, while neighbors carried goods and livestock across with slow, steady steps. Paths and roads extended beyond the town itself, linking one settlement to another. Some followed the curves of rivers or the natural rise and fall of hills, while others were laid in straight, simple lines to guide travelers efficiently across the land. Roads were often little more than cleared dirt tracks at first, softened by grass and earth, but over time, they became worn, well-trodden pathways, marked by the passage of carts, horses, and wandering feet. The gentle repetition of daily travel created a quiet rhythm, like the soft pulse of life itself. Even the smallest roads were carefully maintained. Settlers filled ruts, removed stones, and trimmed overhanging branches. When winter snow or spring rains made travel difficult, neighbors worked together to repair paths. Moving slowly and deliberately, aware that these roads were essential to the calm flow of goods and communication. A well-kept road was not just practical, it was a sign of care, community, and foresight. Waterways were also used to connect communities through trade and social exchange. Quiet boats and rafts carried crops, timber, and crafts to neighboring towns. Travelers moved gently along rivers, exchanging news, ideas, and advice. Rivers were not noisy highways, they were calm, reflective paths, their gentle currents guiding the quiet movement of life. Settlers often paused to watch water flow over rocks or around bends, appreciating its soothing presence and subtle guidance. The natural world guided the construction of these routes. Roads and waterways were built with respect for the land, avoiding steep inclines, marshes, or areas prone to flooding. Bridges and crossings were reinforced slowly, and trees were sometimes left to provide shade along long stretches of path. Settlers observed the behavior of animals and the patterns of the seasons to predict how roads might fare over time. The landscape itself became a quiet partner, gently influencing the shape and flow of the town's connections. Along roads and paths, travelers might encounter markers, simple wooden posts or painted stones indicating direction, distance, or ownership. These markers were subtle, yet reassuring. They offered quiet guidance without overwhelming the natural beauty of the surroundings. Even in their simplicity, they provided comfort, a gentle reminder that life was organized, predictable, and navigable. Markets were closely linked to these connections. Goods produced in one town could be exchanged with neighbors miles away, creating a soft network of commerce. A basket of vegetables, a barrel of flour, or a bundle of cloth traveled slowly, sometimes by cart, sometimes by hand, sometimes by raft along a river. Each movement was deliberate, careful, and measured, reinforcing the quiet, rhythmic life of the town. Roads and waterways were also places of subtle social interaction. Neighbors met travelers passing through, exchanged greetings, and sometimes offered guidance or hospitality. Children would walk carefully along paths to school or church, occasionally greeting other children or adults. Farmers traveling to distant markets encountered neighbors from other towns, sharing advice, seeds, or small gifts. The movement along these gentle channels of connection reinforced the bonds between towns, creating a network of soft human presence spread across the land. Maintenance of roads and waterways was a communal responsibility. Settlers often gathered to repair bridges, clear fallen trees, or dredge shallow channels. Work was steady, deliberate, and cooperative. Everyone contributed in small ways, understanding that the calm, reliable flow of goods, water, and people was essential for survival and comfort. Through these quiet, careful efforts, towns remained connected, and settlers felt the reassurance of community extending beyond their immediate neighbors. Even the design of roads considered safety and the rhythm of daily life. Paths were often laid to follow the sun, making travel easier in daylight and quieter at dusk. Steep or difficult terrain was avoided when possible, and natural landmarks, like a large rock or old tree, provided guidance. Roads and waterways became more than routes, they were gentle guides, shaping the daily movement of people, animals, and goods in subtle, calming ways. The connection of towns through roads and waterways also allowed for the gentle spread of ideas and knowledge. Settlers shared techniques for farming, building, and crafting. Stories of local events, observations of weather, and lessons learned from nature were exchanged quietly along paths and rivers. In this way, roads and waterways became not just physical connectors, but channels of calm learning and shared wisdom, knitting communities together through slow, steady communication. Seasonal changes shaped travel and connection. In spring, rivers swelled gently with melting snow, creating new opportunities and sometimes challenges for transport. Summer allowed for steady, quiet movement along well-trodden paths. Autumn brought harvest goods slowly downstream or to distant towns. Winter required careful navigation along frozen trails or packed snow, often slowing travel but providing time for reflection and preparation. Each season contributed to the soft, predictable rhythm that governed life and connection. By evening, as the sun dipped low and the rivers shimmered in gold and pink, settlers would pause to admire the movement of their world. Smoke from homes rose gently, weaving through the soft lines of streets and fields. Animals returned quietly to pens and pastures. Children's laughter faded along narrow paths, and neighbors greeted one another softly on the way home. Roads and waterways, once simply routes, became familiar companions in the gentle rhythm of life. In this careful network, towns were no longer isolated. They were part of a calm, connected system where the land, water, and people moved together in quiet harmony. The settlers' deliberate care in creating and maintaining roads and waterways ensured that their towns could thrive, trade, and grow without haste or confusion. Every plank of bridge, every cleared path, and every small raft that floated downstream contributed to a slow, steady heartbeat that carried the town's life outward into the world. And so, with the gentle shaping of roads and waterways, early American towns began to expand beyond their own clearings and fields. Connections were established, commerce and communication flowed, and the community found reassurance in the careful, deliberate order of the world they had created. Life moved slowly, predictably, and peacefully along these soft pathways, knitting together homes, fields, markets, and hearts. The settlers could rest each evening knowing that their town, though small and simple, was part of a larger, quietly connected world. With roads winding gently through fields and waterways quietly carrying small rafts of produce and timber, the settlers' towns began to take on a rhythm that extended beyond their own boundaries. Trade and travel became the lifeblood of these early communities, but it was never hurried or noisy. Instead, it was a slow, deliberate movement of goods, ideas, and people, an unspoken rhythm that connected one town to another with calm, quiet energy. Imagine the soft early morning, dew settling on the fields and mist hovering above the river. Farmers load baskets of vegetables onto small carts, their hands steady and careful. Wooden barrels of flour and sacks of grain are gently tied onto rafts for transport downriver. Children follow along slowly, carrying smaller loads or watching quietly, learning the soft steps of daily life. Even the movement of goods is a meditation, a rhythm that brings reassurance and a sense of order to the day. Markets in neighboring towns were often modest, yet lively in their calm way. Settlers would arrive on foot, by horse, or in wagons, carrying items they had grown, crafted, or gathered. The exchange of goods was deliberate, one basket of corn for a sack of flour, a bundle of herbs for a piece of cloth, a carefully made tool for a small piece of furniture. Each transaction was accompanied by quiet words of greeting, soft laughter, and gentle handshakes. There was a steady, almost soothing pattern to the trade that reminded everyone of the predictability and comfort of community life. Travel between towns required care and observation. Paths and roads were often uneven, and rivers could shift with the seasons. Settlers moved slowly, attentive to every step or paddle stroke. Horses and oxen pulled wagons with measured patience, their hooves soft on the dirt, their breathing steady. Travelers shared advice about conditions, upcoming markets, or safe crossings. Even the simplest journey became an opportunity for reflection and connection, as movement itself was a gentle reminder of the interdependence of communities. Craftsmen, too, played a vital role in the flow of goods. Blacksmiths, carpenters, coopers, and weavers created items that were traded near and far. Their work, often carried to other towns along slow-moving roads or quiet rivers, was essential for daily life. Tools made by careful hands, furniture crafted with precision, and textiles woven with attention all traveled gently from one settlement to the next. Each object carried with it the quiet labor and skill of its maker, linking townspeople through the simple act of exchange. The flow of goods also included essential food items, preserved carefully for the journey. Smokehouses, root cellars, and barrels allowed settlers to transport meat, grains, and vegetables without spoilage. These items were often packed with attention, each layer carefully arranged to prevent damage. Even the act of packing was slow and deliberate, an expression of patience and care, ensuring that the town's bounty could reach neighbors and distant markets safely. Waterways, especially, were vital to trade. Rafts and small boats carried produce and goods along rivers that curved gently through the landscape. The movement of these vessels was quiet, almost hypnotic, the soft lapping of water against the hull blending with the occasional call of a bird. Settlers navigating rivers needed patience and gentle guidance, moving slowly to avoid rocks or strong currents. Travel was never hurried, every stroke of the oar and every placement of cargo was deliberate. Reinforcing the calm rhythm of life along these waterways, even communication was tied to these routes. Messages were delivered slowly, carefully, from one town to another. Travelers carried news, letters, or simple verbal updates between neighbors. Settlers listened attentively, shared quietly, and passed information along with care. In this way, roads and rivers became channels not only for goods but for human connection and understanding, a gentle, steady web that bound communities together. Seasons guided the pace of trade and travel. Spring floods could make rivers more navigable, while muddy paths slowed wagons on land. Summer brought long, warm days, allowing for steady movement. Autumn was harvest time, a peak of activity, yet still deliberate and measured. Winter presented challenges, but snow-packed paths or frozen rivers allowed for travel at a slower, reflective pace. Every movement followed the natural rhythm of the year, creating a soothing predictability in the lives of settlers. Trade also offered moments of quiet education. Children traveling with parents observed different towns, learning new techniques for planting, crafting, or building. They noticed variations in how homes were constructed, how streets were laid out, or how fences and gardens were tended. The gentle exchange of goods became an exchange of knowledge, with settlers quietly observing, absorbing, and adapting ideas for their own communities. Even the simplest transaction could inspire thoughtful reflection and improvement, contributing to the calm growth of the town. Along the roads and rivers, travelers also encountered subtle markers of human care. Simple signposts, a carefully placed stone, or a carved tree indicated direction, distance, or caution. These gentle guides offered reassurance, helping people move safely through the countryside. Even without hurried instruction, these markers created a sense of order and continuity, a soft whisper that life was organized and navigable. Animals were an integral part of trade and travel. Horses, oxen, and mules carried heavy loads, moving slowly and steadily. Chickens, goats, and small livestock might travel along fenced paths to market. Settlers learned to guide animals with quiet patience, avoiding sudden movements or loud noises. The gentle rhythm of hooves, clucks, and soft calls became part of the town's broader harmony, a reminder that both human and animal lives moved together in careful balance. Trade gatherings, although modest, were social spaces as well. Settlers exchanged news, shared advice, and caught up on events in nearby towns. Children played quietly near parents while conversations unfolded in soft tones. Craftspeople demonstrated skills or taught simple techniques. The experience was communal and calm, a reflection of the trust and cooperation that bound communities together. Trade was never frantic or overwhelming, it was deliberate, quiet, and reinforcing of the gentle pulse of everyday life. Markets and trade routes also helped towns grow gradually. Access to goods, information, and ideas encouraged settlers to plan new homes, workshops, and fields thoughtfully. Roads extended carefully, following natural contours. Waterways were cleared slowly for safe navigation. Settlers observed, adjusted, and improved paths over time, ensuring that each connection remained reliable and harmonious with the land. In this way, the town expanded naturally, growing steadily and gently, rather than suddenly or chaotically. Even in moments of challenge, storms that flooded roads, rivers that ran too low, or carts that became stuck, the rhythm of trade continued. Settlers adapted slowly, working together to repair damage, reroute paths, or help neighbors carry loads. There was a quiet resilience in these communities, a patient understanding that life's movement was steady, cyclical, and enduring. The calm perseverance of settlers ensured that the flow of goods, ideas, and human connection continued uninterrupted, reinforcing the slow, gentle heartbeat of town life. As the day drew to a close, traders and travelers returned to their homes, their goods safely delivered, their tasks complete. Smoke from hearths rose gently in the evening light, mingling with the scent of fresh earth and warm food. Children played softly along familiar paths, and animals returned quietly to pens and pastures. The soft murmur of conversation drifted along streets and lanes, a calm echo of the day's work and travel. Even in movement, life was measured, deliberate, and peaceful, and so, through the careful exchange of goods, ideas, and quiet travel, early American towns grew stronger, more connected, and more resilient. Roads and waterways became gentle lifelines, carrying the quiet pulse of daily life across distances. Settlers found reassurance in the deliberate rhythm of trade, in the patient movement of people and animals, and in the calm cooperation that sustained their communities. Life flowed slowly, peacefully, and harmoniously, weaving each town into a network of gentle connection that would endure for generations to come. As early American towns slowly grew in homes, workshops, fields, and quiet pathways, the settlers recognized a gentle need for order and guidance. Life could flow softly, but there were always questions to be answered, rules to be agreed upon, and shared responsibilities to consider. Town governance was the quiet heart of community life, a way to ensure that daily living remained calm, fair, and organized. Imagine a warm afternoon, sunlight soft on wooden streets and fields. Settlers gather at the modest meeting house or the central open square, voices low and respectful. The discussion is not hurried or heated. Instead, it is deliberate, patient, and attentive, guided by the understanding that every voice matters and every decision ripples gently through the lives of the community. This was the essence of early town governance, a soft, careful attention to shared life. The meeting house often became the center of town governance. Its simple structure, wooden beams, a few benches, a pulpit or table at the front, served as a place for both formal decisions and casual guidance. Here, townspeople discussed matters of safety, shared resources, land disputes, and plans for future growth. Everyone who could walk to the gathering was encouraged to attend, ensuring that governance remained a calm, participatory process, rooted in cooperation rather than force. Decisions were often made slowly. A topic might be introduced, quietly explained, and then considered in silence for a time. Settlers listened carefully to one another, weighing options, reflecting on consequences, and discussing gently. Each voice was given space, each concern was acknowledged, and compromise was valued over haste. Even disagreements were addressed calmly, with the goal of preserving harmony and maintaining the soft rhythm of town life. Town meetings were not limited to the formal discussion of laws or regulations. They were also spaces for education, reflection, and shared wisdom. Settlers might discuss the best methods for planting crops, caring for animals, or building fences. They exchanged advice on managing resources, repairing roads, or navigating rivers. Each meeting became a quiet workshop of learning, where practical knowledge flowed slowly from one neighbor to another, reinforcing the town's collective sense of calm and stability. Local officials were chosen with care, often by consensus rather than competition. Roles included selecting constables, treasurers, or overseers of roads and public spaces. Each official was expected to act with patience, fairness, and the gentle guidance of community interest rather than personal ambition. Settlers trusted that these individuals would maintain the town's order without disrupting the soft, steady rhythm that had been established. One important focus of town governance was shared responsibility for public spaces. Roads, bridges, wells, and common fields required careful attention. Settlers took turns maintaining paths, repairing bridges, and tending communal land. Work was steady and cooperative, a quiet reflection of collective care. Every post hammered, every plank placed, every furrow tilled was part of a broader rhythm, a rhythm of shared attention that made life predictable, secure, and soothing. The allocation of land and resources was another careful aspect of governance. Settlers needed to agree on boundaries, gardens, pastures, and forests. Fences were constructed to mark private and communal spaces, but the placement of each post was deliberate, often discussed and measured by neighbors working together. These discussions were calm, grounded in practicality, and focused on maintaining fairness. The town's growth depended on thoughtful organization, not hurried decisions, and each choice was made with patience. Education and moral guidance were also considered part of governance. Town leaders often coordinated small schools and encouraged attendance, ensuring that children learned not just reading and arithmetic but also values of cooperation, respect, and patience. Religion and quiet reflection were integrated into daily life, with meeting houses serving as spaces for contemplation and shared guidance. These elements were not imposed but shared gently, offering settlers a sense of stability and calm direction. Safety was another focus of governance. Settlers coordinated watches, organized plans for emergencies, and set guidelines for fire safety, livestock management, and protection of communal resources. These precautions were never frantic or harsh, they were measured, deliberate steps designed to preserve the slow, steady life of the town. Everyone had a role, and the community's care for one another created reassurance that life, though sometimes unpredictable, could remain calm and secure. Communication of decisions was simple and thoughtful. Notices might be posted in the square, delivered by travelers, or shared during gatherings. Messages were brief, clear, and quiet, avoiding confusion or haste. Settlers understood that clarity and patience in communication prevented misunderstanding and maintained the gentle rhythm of daily life. Even small announcements, like the timing of a communal workday or a market, were treated with care, ensuring smooth coordination. Conflict resolution was approached with similar calm. Disputes over land, water, or resources were discussed openly, often with the guidance of an elder or trusted official. Decisions were reached through dialogue, compromise, and quiet reasoning. Even when consensus was not immediate, settlers respected one another's voices and patiently sought solutions. There was a soft understanding that peace and harmony were worth more than immediate victory or personal gain. Financial matters, too, were managed deliberately. Settlers sometimes pooled resources for communal projects, like repairing a bridge or building a well. Contributions were recorded carefully, budgets considered slowly, and expenditures measured cautiously. Money was never hurried through the hands of the community. Each transaction, like every other aspect of town life, followed the gentle rhythm of thoughtfulness and reflection. In many ways, governance mirrored the daily life of the town itself, slow, deliberate, and attentive. Decisions were made with care, actions were measured, and the voices of the community guided progress. There was an inherent understanding that every choice affected not just the present but the future. And that patience, respect, and cooperation were the soft, guiding principles of life. Even the smallest rules and routines contributed to a sense of calm. Settlers agreed on schedules for communal work, designated spaces for animals, and hours for market activity. They discussed quietly how to care for shared resources, when to repair paths, and how to help neighbors in need. These decisions were never imposed harshly, they were shared, reflective, and gentle, creating a predictable rhythm that supported both individual households and the broader community. By the evening of a typical town meeting, decisions were made, roles assigned, and plans agreed upon. Settlers returned home slowly, carrying a quiet sense of reassurance. Fires glowed warmly in hearths, streets were soft with the fading light, and the gentle murmur of conversation drifted through the town. The work of governance, though vital, blended seamlessly with the calm rhythms of everyday life. It was not separate from living, it was an integral part of it, guiding the town's growth with patience, care, and quiet attention. Even as disputes arose or challenges were faced, the town's governance provided a sense of security. Settlers trusted the slow process of discussion, compromise, and deliberate action. They knew that decisions would be made thoughtfully, that their voices would be heard, and that the gentle heartbeat of the community would continue uninterrupted. This trust became the foundation of life, allowing each person to move through daily routines with calm confidence. In the end, town governance was less about strict laws or formal authority and more about shared understanding and mutual care. It was the quiet mechanism by which settlers preserved the harmony of their streets, homes, fields, and markets. Every decision, every meeting, every carefully weighed plan contributed to the soft, enduring pulse of the town. And in this rhythm, settlers found comfort, reassurance, and the gentle certainty that life, though filled with work and responsibility, could remain calm, cooperative, and peaceful. Through patient governance, early American towns were not just collections of homes and workshops, they were communities grounded in careful thought, shared responsibility, and quiet cooperation. Streets, fields, markets, and waterways all operated within this gentle structure. Settlers lived in a world where decisions were deliberate, voices were respected, and life flowed steadily and predictably. Governance, though subtle and soft, became the invisible scaffolding upon which the town's rhythm rested, ensuring that every day unfolded in quiet, reassuring order. As early American towns gradually settled into a rhythm of homes, fields, markets, and quiet governance, the settlers began to weave softer threads into their communities, threads of learning, faith, and daily rituals. These gentle practices provided structure, comfort, and a sense of continuity, grounding townspeople in calm routines that shaped both their days and their spirits. Imagine the soft light of dawn spilling over wooden homes and fields, the mist lingering along fences and garden paths. Children stir quietly in their beds, hearing the soft calls of roosters or the gentle murmur of parents preparing breakfast. Some are preparing for the first lessons of the day, a slow, thoughtful introduction to reading, writing, and numbers. Education in these early towns was never rushed. It was a gentle unfolding, a soft layering of knowledge, patience, and curiosity. Small schoolhouses were modest structures, often one room with simple wooden benches and a hearth to keep the chill away. Teachers were calm, attentive, and patient, guiding children through letters, numbers, and stories with measured care. The rhythm of learning was steady and soothing, each lesson introduced deliberately, each student encouraged gently, each error met with understanding rather than frustration. Children learned to read slowly, savoring the shapes of words and the sounds of letters. While their fingers traced lines in sand or inked pages, moving in quiet repetition, lessons were often intertwined with the natural rhythms of life. Observations of the seasons, the growth of plants, or the movement of animals became part of education. Students learned to measure rainfall, observe the ripening of crops, and note the patterns of birds and insects. In this way, Knowledge was connected to the gentle, observable flow of the world around them, reinforcing a sense of calm attentiveness. Religion, too, shaped the rhythm of early towns. Meeting houses or chapels, though simple in structure, offered quiet spaces for reflection, worship, and communal gathering. Sunlight filtered softly through small windows, casting gentle patterns on wooden floors. Settlers gathered to listen to sermons, sing hymns, or share quiet prayers, the soft cadence of words and melodies weaving a comforting rhythm through daily life. Religious practices were not rigid or overwhelming, they were intended to nurture a sense of order, morality, and peace. Even daily chores were infused with gentle ritual. Morning meals were prepared and eaten with care, fires stoked slowly, and homes tidied with deliberate hands. Fields were tended methodically, animals fed and guided patiently, and tools checked and maintained for the day's work. The repetition of these activities, performed quietly and attentively, became a calming cadence. A soft background against which the life of the town unfolded. Evening rituals were equally soothing. After a day spent in school, work, or travel, families would gather around hearths to share meals. Conversations were calm, stories told in gentle voices, and lessons from the day discussed quietly. The rhythm of gathering, eating, and reflecting offered a reassuring structure, reinforcing bonds between family members and neighbors alike. Children learned the soft manners of listening, speaking, and observing, while adults found comfort in the predictable, deliberate patterns of life. Music also played a subtle role in daily rituals. Simple instruments, fiddles, flutes, or small drums, were used occasionally to accompany work or gatherings. Melodies were soft and unhurried, flowing gently through streets, homes, and meeting houses. Songs often told stories, celebrated the seasons, or provided a slow, meditative accompaniment to tasks like weaving, spinning, or mending. In these quiet sounds, settlers found not only entertainment but a calming connection to one another and the world around them. Storytelling itself became a form of education and reflection. In the evenings, families and neighbors would sit together, sharing tales of history, personal experience, or local legends. Voices were soft and measured, words carefully chosen, and lessons embedded within the narrative. Stories were more than entertainment, they were a gentle guide. Passing on knowledge, values, and a sense of continuity from one generation to the next. Children listened with wide eyes, absorbing not just facts, but the tone, cadence, and careful attention of spoken words. Even simple routines, like tending a garden or caring for animals, were infused with mindfulness. Settlers learned to observe changes in weather, soil, and plant growth. Animals were fed and guided with care, their movements calm and coordinated with human activity. These routines were not hurried, they were deliberate, almost meditative, reflecting a rhythm that was both practical and deeply soothing. Every repeated action, from watering a garden to milking a cow, became a gentle meditation. Connecting settlers to the slow, steady pulse of life, religious holidays and seasonal celebrations offered another layer of calm structure. While modest and subdued compared to modern festivities, these days were marked by shared gatherings, quiet reflection, and gentle enjoyment. Families might prepare special meals, attend communal worship, or engage in simple crafts or games. Even in celebration, life moved slowly and deliberately, reinforcing the sense of continuity and harmony within the town. Health and hygiene were also part of the gentle routines of life. Settlers learned the careful preparation of food, the slow maintenance of clean living spaces, and the gentle tending of small injuries or ailments. Baths, washing, and care of clothing were conducted methodically, often following the soft rhythm of the week or month. These practices, though practical, also provided reassurance, structure, and a sense of personal and communal calm. As children grew, they gradually assumed more responsibility for these rituals. They helped with cooking, farming, tending animals, and participating in community tasks. Through this gradual involvement, they absorbed the rhythm of town life, learning patience, observation, and the gentle art of cooperation. Each task, repeated carefully, became a small thread in the larger fabric of community life, creating a sense of belonging and quiet confidence. Even the passing of seasons reinforced calm routines. Spring brought planting and renewal, summer offered growth and maintenance, autumn guided harvest and preservation, and winter provided reflection, rest, and preparation. Education, religion, and daily rituals all followed this natural cadence, weaving human activity into the gentle cycles of the natural world. Settlers moved slowly in concert with the environment, their lives measured, deliberate, and harmonious. By evening, the town often fell into a soft hush. Children drifted to sleep after stories or prayers, parents settled into chairs near warm hearths, and the soft glow of lamp or candle illuminated quiet streets. The gentle murmur of life, creaking doors, distant footsteps, the faint rustle of trees, reminded everyone of the calm, persistent rhythm that surrounded them. Even as the world outside moved unpredictably, the town offered a sanctuary of order, attention, and gentle care. In this slow, deliberate lifestyle, education, religion, and daily rituals were not separate from work or survival, they were integral to it. They provided structure, rhythm, and continuity, ensuring that each day flowed predictably and peacefully. Settlers found comfort in repetition, reassurance in quiet reflection, and security in shared routines. Life was never hurried, it was observed, considered, and carried out with care. Through these gentle practices, townspeople nurtured both their own well-being and the cohesion of their communities. Children grew up attentive, patient, and respectful. Adults found satisfaction in steady, deliberate work. The town itself, from fields to homes, workshops to meeting houses, thrived not only because of physical construction but because of the soft, sustaining framework of routines, rituals, and shared values. And so, in the quiet rhythm of daily life, lessons learned in the schoolhouse, hymns sung in the chapel, meals shared around the hearth, and chores performed with care, early American towns cultivated both calm and continuity. Settlers moved through their days deliberately, harmonizing work, learning, faith, and family into a gentle, enduring rhythm. It was this quiet structure, this thoughtful attention to daily rituals, that allowed towns to flourish peacefully, offering their residents not just survival, but comfort, belonging, and the gentle assurance that life, though filled with labor, could remain calm, measured, and full of quiet grace. Even in the slow, steady rhythm of early American towns, life was not all work, chores, and careful governance. Amidst the fields, workshops, roads, and hearths, there were moments of gentle pleasure, calm amusement, and quiet leisure. Settlers understood that life needed pauses, soft spaces where the mind and body could rest, where creativity could flow, and where laughter and gentle storytelling could fill the air. These were the subtle joys that made towns feel alive, comforting, and human. Imagine a late afternoon when the sun is soft and warm, casting long shadows across streets and fields. Children, their lessons and chores complete for the day, gather quietly in a small open space near their homes. They play simple games, often with handmade toys or natural objects. Sticks become swords, leaves are transformed into treasure, and small balls of twine or cloth roll across the soft earth. The sounds are gentle, laughter restrained by the habit of calm, footsteps careful, voices low. Even play is deliberate, unhurried, and mindful. Adults, too, found ways to enjoy quiet leisure. After a long day of work in fields, markets, or workshops, they would sit near the hearth, spinning wool or weaving baskets. The rhythmic movement of hands, the gentle turning of wheels, or the soft tap of tools offered both productivity and relaxation. Music might drift through the room, a simple tune on a fiddle, a soft hum, or a lullaby sung to a child. Even in labor, there was a subtle intertwining of work and pleasure, a soft meditation on the day's accomplishments. Storytelling was perhaps the most cherished form of entertainment. As evening descended and fires glowed warmly, families and neighbors gathered to share tales. Some stories were practical, recounting lessons learned from farming, travel, or crafting. Others were legends, gently mysterious accounts of the land, animals, or past settlers. The voices were soft, deliberate, and rhythmic, drawing listeners into a calm, reflective state. Children listened with wide, quiet eyes, absorbing not just the plot but the gentle cadence and tone of spoken words. Music and singing added another layer to town life. Evenings were often filled with soft melodies, whether a child plucking a small instrument, a parent softly strumming a lute, or a neighbor humming while performing a task. Tunes were simple and soothing, designed to comfort rather than excite. Sometimes, these songs accompanied chores or travel, blending gently with the rhythm of daily life. In other moments, music was purely for reflection and joy, a way to mark the passage of time and celebrate the quiet beauty of the world. Festivals and seasonal gatherings offered structured leisure. While modest compared to the celebrations of larger towns or cities, these events were deliberate and joyful. Families shared special meals, neighbors told stories, and children engaged in gentle games. Dancing, when it occurred, was slow and graceful, a soft expression of communal happiness rather than boisterous activity. These gatherings reinforced bonds between settlers, offering a sense of connection, continuity, and calm delight. Crafts and hobbies were also part of quiet leisure. Sewing, quilting, carving, basket weaving, and candle making were not only practical but soothing. Settlers took pride in creating objects that were both useful and beautiful, appreciating the deliberate rhythm of their hands moving carefully over materials. The soft crackle of a fire, the quiet scratch of a needle, or the gentle tap of a carving tool became part of the comforting background of evening life. Even small projects offered satisfaction, mindfulness, and the calming reassurance of accomplishment. Nature itself provided leisure and reflection. Gentle walks along fields, rivers, or woodland paths were common, allowing settlers to observe birds, plants, and the subtle changes of the seasons. Children explored slowly, finding small treasures like smooth stones or colorful leaves, their movements quiet and attentive. Adults might pause to observe the rippling surface of a pond or the sway of trees in a soft breeze. These moments reinforced the settlers' connection to the land, reminding them of the calm rhythms of nature and their role within it. Games, both for children and adults, were often quiet and simple. Stones or sticks might become markers in gentle competitions. Spinning tops, small wooden toys, or homemade dolls allowed children to engage creativity while moving slowly through space. Adults occasionally played board games or card games, their interactions soft-spoken and deliberate. Even in recreation, there was no rush, no loud commotion, only a gentle flow of attention and enjoyment. Reading, when materials were available, provided another avenue for calm leisure. Settlers treasured small books or handwritten letters, reading quietly by lamplight or near the fireplace. The rhythm of turning pages, the soft scratching of quills, and the quiet unfolding of ideas offered both learning and relaxation. Reading became a private meditation, a gentle journey through words that could entertain, instruct, or comfort. Community storytelling also included shared memories of the land. Elders recounted the quiet histories of their families, the founding of the town, or the movement of rivers and forests. These narratives were not hurried, they were shared slowly, allowing listeners to absorb both content and tone. In hearing these stories, children and neighbors alike developed a sense of place, connection, and calm continuity. The past became a quiet companion, present in daily life, shaping the community's understanding of itself and the world around it. Even small acts of hospitality were part of leisure. Visitors were welcomed with soft words, simple meals, and warm hearths. Tea or a small snack offered not only nourishment but a sense of calm connection. Conversation flowed slowly, focusing on gentle topics, observations of nature, or shared stories. The act of welcoming and hosting reinforced a sense of belonging, respect, and quiet joy, weaving subtle threads of comfort and trust through daily life. Seasonal changes naturally influenced leisure as well. Spring and summer encouraged walks, planting, and outdoor games. Autumn, with harvest complete, brought reflective storytelling, gentle celebrations, and preparation for colder months. Winter, though harsh, offered time for indoor crafts, music, and reading. Even during long nights, settlers created soothing routines to fill quiet hours, using gentle activities to maintain calm and harmony within households and the community at large. Animals, too, contributed to leisure and reflection. Settlers observed the slow movement of cows in fields, the gentle clucking of hens, or the soft purring of cats by the hearth. Children quietly followed small animals, learning to understand their rhythms, while adults occasionally paused work to watch or care for them. These moments of observation were calming, reinforcing the rhythm of life and the subtle, patient bonds between humans and creatures alike. By the end of a typical day, after chores were done, children gently drifted to play with their remaining toys, adults hummed softly or mended clothing, and families gathered near the hearth to share simple stories or quiet songs. The town itself seemed to exhale, a soft, collective sigh of contentment, as streets, fields, and homes settled into evening calm. The gentle flow of play, music, and reflection threaded through the day, reminding settlers of the subtle joy present in slow, deliberate living. Through these moments of entertainment, play, and leisure, early American towns nurtured not just survival, but also well-being and connection. Laughter, creativity, music, and storytelling became part of the town's quiet heartbeat. Settlers learned to balance labor with gentle relaxation, work with contemplation, and responsibility with pleasure. Every soft activity, every careful movement, and every shared moment of calm contributed to a town that was alive not with chaos, but with harmony, patience, and quiet human warmth. And so, as night fell over fields and homes, the town embraced the rhythm of rest, reflection, and gentle leisure. Children's laughter softened into whispers, instruments were laid down, stories concluded with quiet smiles, and the gentle murmur of life carried into the shadows. In these small, deliberate pleasures, the town found a soothing pulse, a slow, steady heartbeat that tied together work, care, learning, and play. Entertainment and leisure, far from frivolous, were essential threads in the calming tapestry of town life, offering settlers the quiet assurance that even amidst labor and responsibility, moments of joy, connection, and reflection could always be found. Even in the gentle rhythm of early American towns, life required careful attention to health and well-being. Settlers were attuned to the quiet needs of their bodies, their families, and their neighbors. Illness, injury, or the challenges of daily work could disturb the calm pulse of life, so caring for health became a slow, deliberate practice, an essential part of maintaining the steady, soothing rhythm of the community. Imagine a soft morning, sunlight spilling over wooden rooftops and dew-covered fields. A mother tends to her child, checking for signs of fever or discomfort. The air carries a faint scent of herbs drying on windowsills, and the soft crackle of a fire warms the kitchen where meals are being prepared with careful attention to nutrition and cleanliness. Life moves deliberately here, with each action offering comfort, protection, and reassurance. Knowledge of medicine was a blend of observation, tradition, and gentle experimentation. Settlers relied on the slow wisdom of elders, who had learned from their own experiences, from native communities, and from texts brought from distant lands. Leaves, roots, flowers, and barks were gathered and prepared carefully, turned into teas, poultices, or salves. Each preparation was a quiet act of mindfulness, measured to ensure effectiveness while respecting the natural balance of the land. Herbs were especially important in everyday care. Chamomile, lavender, and mint were steeped in soft steam to soothe the stomach, calm the nerves, or aid in sleep. Willow bark, with its gentle medicinal properties, eased aches and pains. Plants were not taken quickly or recklessly, they were harvested slowly, dried with care, and used with knowledge passed down quietly through generations. The scent of these herbs often mingled with the smoke of cooking fires, filling homes with soft, healing aromas. Care extended beyond herbs. Hygiene was a critical part of health. Families washed hands, cleaned utensils, and maintained living spaces with deliberate attention. Even simple acts, like scrubbing floors, airing beds, or cleaning wells, contributed to the town's steady rhythm of well-being. The repetition of these small tasks was calming, almost meditative, reinforcing both cleanliness and the soft predictability of daily life. Medical help, when needed, was often provided by community healers or neighbors with knowledge of remedies. Midwives guided childbirth with slow, careful attention, offering comfort and instruction to mothers. A neighbor might assist with setting a broken bone, cleaning a wound, or preparing a herbal poultice. These acts of care were never rushed, they were deliberate, patient, and respectful, creating a sense of security and trust that reinforced the community's calm heartbeat. Observation was a central part of health. Settlers learned to notice subtle changes in the body and behavior. A pale face, a quiet cough, or a lack of appetite was observed carefully, discussed calmly, and addressed with gentle remedies. By paying attention to small details, the community could prevent minor ailments from becoming serious, preserving the slow, steady flow of daily life. Nutrition played a gentle but important role in sustaining health. Meals were prepared thoughtfully, using seasonal produce, grains, and preserved foods from the harvest. Every ingredient was selected and treated with care, not just to satisfy hunger, but to nurture strength and well-being. Children learned slowly which foods were nourishing, which herbs could aid digestion, and how to prepare simple meals. Adults took pride in crafting balanced dishes that provided both comfort and sustenance. Rest, too, was a deliberate part of health care. Settlers recognized that bodies and minds needed quiet periods of sleep and reflection. Children napped when necessary, adults rested after long tasks, and communities adjusted schedules with attention to daylight and seasonal changes. Sleep was not hurried, it was intentional, allowing both recovery and gentle rejuvenation. Fires were banked, paths cleared, and animals settled quietly before night fully fell, creating an environment that encouraged calm rest. Exercise was often embedded in daily work rather than pursued separately. Walking to fields, tending animals, carrying water, or chopping wood offered a gentle, steady rhythm of movement that kept bodies strong. Movements were deliberate and measured, avoiding excess strain, creating a balance between labor and bodily care. Even chores were integrated into this quiet system of exercise and health, ensuring that activity remained beneficial and soothing rather than exhausting. Mental health was attended to with similar care. Storytelling, music, quiet games, and reflective walks provided spaces for relaxation and emotional release. Settlers shared concerns gently, listened attentively, and offered reassurance. The slow, deliberate pace of life allowed space for contemplation, observation, and recovery from daily challenges, fostering emotional resilience alongside physical health. When illness struck, care was extended with patience. Settlers would nurse the sick with soft words, gentle touch, and calming remedies. Rooms were quiet, meals brought gently, fires kept warm, and herbs applied carefully. Even in the face of more serious ailments, there was a steady rhythm of observation, comfort, and deliberate action. No movement was hurried, every step was intended to soothe and support. Communal knowledge played a vital role. Advice about which herbs to use, how to dress wounds, or which foods promoted recovery was shared slowly and respectfully. Neighbors taught one another patiently, ensuring that wisdom was passed along without haste.